Hello and welcome to The Backlash. I'm your host, David J. Riley. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've got a big show for you, a lot of guests coming on the show today. We're going to be talking a lot about the report that has now come out from Rupert Lowe, the PM over in Britain, about the grooming gangs and the subsequent cover-up of about 250,000 young women who have been raped in Britain by migrants, overwhelmingly Pakistani migrants. So we're going to be getting into that. We're going to be getting into some other stuff as the program continues. There's been a lot of drama unfolding, both in the Catholic Church as well as with the Iran war. So we're going to be getting into all of that and more. But first, we got to give a big shout out to all of our sponsors that make this show possible. First up being, of course, Antelope, or no, not, what am I talking about? I'm like way out of the loop. I did not have enough coffee today. ODGGsupply.com, the Pacific Northwest's premier military surplus dealer, whether you're going blankie mode or bug out mode, they've got you covered. And of course, to fix my days, I should have drank more above time coffee this morning. I only had 1 cup today, but we got to give them a big shout out at AboveTimeCoffee.com, pro white, small batch, hand roasted coffee. Of course, our friends at Antelope Hill Publishing, they're fighting to keep history alive amidst a regime of anti-white censorship. Visit AntelopeHillPublishing.com. North Idaho Tallow Company, this will be over soon, don't worry. North Idaho Tallow Company, makers of soap and skincare products without endocrine disruptors. They won't shrink your balls or turn you gay. Visit idahotallow.com and, of course, atlasbullion.com/backlash if you are concerned about inflation and the government spending way too much money and making your hard-earned dollars worth less. Then you need to think about saving in gold and silver. At atlasbullion.com/backlash, of course, you can find all of those links on our website, thebacklash.net. You can also find all of our platforms at thebacklash.net/subscribe. You can find all of our affiliates there. You can also support the show at subscribestar.com/thebacklash, patreon.com/thebacklash. You can send in a super chat on our YouTube channel or a Rumble rant on our Rumble channel. So thank you so much for joining us today. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today, Michael de Lebrock. Michael is a British native. He's been spending time working as a activist all throughout Europe, covering the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. He's also been stationed in Ireland, keeping an eye on what's been going on with the risings in Ireland. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining the program today.
Happy to be here. Thank you for giving me the platform. And just with the little caveat, don't want to be pedantic, but it's Northern Ireland very specifically. It's a Northern Ireland issue that we're kind of going to be discussing today. So there is a bit of a distinction between the two. Not to be pedantic again, but just a little bugbear on my end. It's like saying you're a Canadian there in Idaho.
Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, we are close, but it is different. It is different. Okay. We've got a lot more guns, and they've got a lot more Indians. So
you've got a lot more legal guns in this place, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's so true. So let's just start off here. I've got a couple of clips that I want to play. The first one is from Rupert Lowe. Of course, he just released this report. Let's see if I've got it up on screen. It is the Rape Gang Inquiry report that was just released yesterday. Less than 24 hours ago. Of course, the mainstream media has been completely silent about this. It's over 200 pages featuring interviews with victims, all kinds of testimony, court records, and the like. And he presented this in Parliament yesterday. So I'm going to put this on 2x speed. It's a little long, but he goes over a lot of the testimony. And I think it's worth hearing. And it is explicit. So I know that I swear a little bit too much on this show, and I'm working on that. But for sure, if you've got kids around for the next 2.5 minutes, you don't want them listening. So let's take a listen.
It is quite harrowing.
Yes, let's take a listen to Rupert Lowe on the floor of the House of Parliament.
He took his pants down, penetrated me, had sex with me. He then stopped before ejaculation. He picked up the bottle of Jack Daniels, which was now empty, and he forced it up inside me. He broke the glass while he was there. At that point, I was about 12, nearly 13. Another testimony. I was held down by the men as they each took turns to orally and vaginally rape me, taking it in turns to pin down my arms and my legs. When the assault ended, the men hit me repeatedly, threatened to find me, kill me, and harm my loved ones if I ever told anybody what had happened. Another. Comments were constantly made suggesting that white girls, the Christian girls, were viewed as having fewer morals or lower values, whereas Muslim girls were described by some of the men as having dignity and higher moral standing. These comparisons were used to justify the way I was treated and to further humiliate and control me. Another. She was a white woman herself, who I imagine may have been groomed, and has obviously now married into the family, shouting obscenities at us. Throughout the whole sentencing, she was constantly saying, fucking liars, lying white bitches. She said to me that God will be the witness for what happens to me. Another. Race did play a part, and motivated the selection or demographic of the victims. Throughout my exploitation, the other girls I encountered, or who were abused alongside me, were almost exclusively white. Another. She had a baby by him, and his dad was an imam. His dad knew. And he got his son married and said that he wasn't allowed to see the child. They look after their own community. Another. Over the course of the abuse, I was raped by multiple police officers in different parts of the country. Another. He put a cigarette out on the baby's face. Another. It started when I was 13. I was raped by probably about 600 or 700 different men over 3 years.
Jesus,
Another.
Mary and
They would toot the horn of the car, and then a child would be taken to the front door by a staff member of the children's home. Another. I was bleeding from both my vagina and my back passage, and was so swollen I could not sit down. I told hospital staff my drink had been spiked, and I did not know what had happened because I was too afraid to tell the truth. They did not ask any questions. They gave me tablets and discharged me. I was 15 years old. Another. Things would escalate around Eid and holidays. Parties got bigger, got worse, got more violent. More people involved, more girls involved. The parties were just bigger. Another. The main clash that I kind of had with the religion side of it was I grew up as a Christian. I would wear my cross because it was something really special to me. It was just used as a way to break me down. They said, where is your God now? Has your God forsaken you? Another. It was all of the white girls in every home that I went to. I remember a man opening the back of a van, and I saw 15, 20 girls locked in dog cages. Another. Dogs were brought in, and I couldn't move at all. I had nowhere to move. I think that was the scariest thing, was not having any concept of it. There were men around me, not horrified, not disgusted, not helping, but filming and laughing, making bets on whether the dog could actually rape me or not. And yes, I was raped by a dog. The man just held my face, stared me down straight in the eyes, and he wanted to see me break, and he did. Another. I just wanted to stop and not happen to any other children, and for people to actually act, to do something and stop being so scared. I could continue for hours and hours. All of us in this building have a responsibility to finally act. Not to talk, but to act. Our Rape Gang Inquiry report will be released in the coming days. It will change Britain for good.
So there's just a thumbnail sketch of some of the testimony that's in, and horrific.
Yeah.
And it's been systematically covered up for decades. So
It still is.
yeah, so the report really isn't, it's not telling us anything that we didn't already know. We knew that this was happening. We've been talking about this happening, and people have been getting deplatformed. The police will come to their houses. They'll get thrown in jail for racial incitement or whatever. But now that this has come out, what is your take? And what is the sentiment on the ground in England right now?
Well, the problem is I'm in Northern Ireland. I'm not in England myself, but as recent history has shown, is that there's a very febrile atmosphere here in Northern Ireland, and I think that's reflected very much across the country, because at the moment it just seems every other day there's some kind of migrant or migrant-linked atrocity happening in the country, and underneath this, of course, with very, I don't know the right word to articulate it, but you've had this migrant gang issue just bubbling away under the surface, just slowly hyping up tensions, feelings, and righteous outrage for the people in the country. So the inquiry itself has kind of dropped at a very febrile time, and I think this is why we're seeing a bit of a media blackout on it. As far as I'm aware, I think only GB News has actually done a report so far on Rupert's inquiry. The things that I have not read the report because it's quite substantive and I've been quite busy today. But generally, as you've alluded to, we basically know the horrors of what we're going to see. What we've seen and the tidbits I've seen of the reports are just make for such disgusting reading that I'm kind of hesitant to actually pick up the report to read it in as depth as it is. So after the riots in Belfast, after the disorder in Southampton, and it's still going on. This idea, because there is a media blackout in the UK at the moment, that these riots and these tensions have just kind of quietly gone away. No, there's still houses being burned out. There's still cars being burned out in Northern Ireland. There's still sometimes varying into disorder demonstrations across England and Scotland. Interestingly, Scotland there as well, of people just protesting the migrant issue. And generally, the thing that really, I know in Scotland, some of the recent protests there have been exacerbated because the migrant issue is linked to a degree to the rape gang issue, because the Pakistani community is not native to Britain. It's a migratory population in Britain. And on top of that, we have new incomers of migrants coming into this country who are just basically recreating, maybe without the organization, but they're just effectively organizing rape gangs themselves to go out and predate on British and European girls and women. So, I mean, what can you... I'm sort of a strange figure in my sort of very nuanced worldview, and that I'm actually a very anti-British nationalist, because I look at this stuff and it happens days in and day out, and then you read this report and you read the highlights of this report, and I'm just like, how can this country ever scrub the stench and the stain from its hands about what it is permitted? It's not absent-mindedly that, accidentally bumbled into this atrocity, or, this was like some kind of natural disaster that no one's seen coming. No, this country and the institutions within many wings of government openly knew this was happening and covered up for it. And some of the people who covered up for it are sitting as MPs in Parliament to this day. And it's just how can this country ever hope to cleanse and redeem itself from such a stain on itself? It's allowed this to happen to its daughters and its sisters. It's an atrocity. It really is. And I don't want to Fed post, especially because of where I am at the moment. But it's just like if we're going to wash our hands with it, it's going to have to be washed with something, and it's not going to be water.
True. I mean, it's not like we didn't see this coming, right? I've been binge watching a lot of documentaries recently about Rhodesia, and the Crown specifically turned their back on the Rhodesians. They were British subjects. They were
more British than the British themselves.
Yeah, and Britain turned their back on them and is allowed for all the farm massacres that are going on in South Africa, Rhodesia, all of what had happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now here it is. It's come home to their own soil. So because you haven't read the report, I do have a grok summary. And so we can look here at the perpetrator demographics.
I'm sure it's not. I'm going to be surprised to find out that.
So the report states that perpetrators were overwhelmingly Muslim men, predominantly of Pakistani heritage, with some involvement from other Muslim backgrounds: Somali, Iranian, Syrian, and Turkish. Key data points cited: 87% of those convicted in group-based child sexual exploitation cases from 1997 to 2018 had distinctively Muslim names. One analysis of 222 offenders from 2005 to 2017 found 84% to be South Asian, mostly Pakistani Muslim. Estimates suggest that the true figure of organized gang cases is 87 to 95%. This represents a massive overrepresentation relative to Muslims being only 6.5% of the UK population. 6% of the population, 87% of the rapes that are occurring.
But the statistic that our internal traders often throw back at us is actually, well, head for head, there are more white pedophiles than there are Muslim pedophiles. And it's like, okay, so we need to have the per capita discussion, or is this really this is the discussion whenever this comes up, even in mainstream media, if it gets that far, you will have elected MPs and government ministers who will sit on a panel discussing the rape gang stuff. And whenever you bring up these inconvenient statistics to their worldview, they will go down this very pedantic, we all know they don't believe it. We all know that they are intentionally trying to muddy the waters. But this constant statistic that they roll out is like, oh, well, there's like 56% of pedophiles convicted in the UK are white British. And it's like, yeah, well, what's the proportion of the population that is white British? And then whenever you consider 43% of the convicted pedophile population are going to be like Pakistani, it's like, well, for 6% of the population. But I mean, we all know this. This is just one of the things that's thrown back in our face to try and avoid addressing the most obvious problem demographic that we all know is there, but it's just inconvenient for this dying, decaying, discredited worldview. But they still hold on to it come hell or high water. Like even today, the government's just, as we've been alluding to, the media blackout, the government refuses to address it. They'll do these very, what's the right word I'm looking for? Perfunctory, nods to this about, sexual grooming. There'll just be this generic term of, exploitation of women and girls. And it's like, okay, we all hate pedophiles, be they white, be they Asian, be they black, be whatever race they are, all pedophiles should hang. But whenever you have one group that is very, very overrepresented in this, it's like, well, maybe you need to tailor policies or preferably just not bring in that demographic into the country. It's like, okay, so there's white pedophiles. We have to make sure there's an equal or overrepresentation of the diverse community in the pedophile community. Like that's the argument these people approach at, and it's like it's mind-numbing. And like I say, this is effectively state policy. Thankfully, I'm a little bit white-pilled as of late, where I'm seeing a viable electoral political path where we might be able to start to turn this around. But I mean, just in general, like the fact that this is the state, the organs of the state and the heights of the media are still trotting out these stuff that we were dealing with in 2014, 2016. They've just never moved beyond that very base level analysis or area of level of rhetoric in discussion about it. It's just mind-numbing. And it's like, how can you engage in this discussion with such people, which is why I think most people don't engage with it. And I think this is why, I've had a very nuanced opinion on Rupert and a very nuanced opinion on Restore Britain. But, perhaps one of the greatest things that Rupert's ever done is he's just decided this is not being addressed. I'm going to fund it and address it off my own back. And, I'm sure there's various views and theories about Elon Musk, but credit to Elon Musk. He's certainly heightened the profile of this far beyond what the state and the chattering classes in Britain would rather and be comfortable with it remaining.
Yes, and that brings up a good point. And I do want to talk about this kind of path towards, I guess, electorally doing something about this issue. So I would like your opinion of Rupert Lowe, because from an outside, as an American outside, kind of looking into to Britain, it does seem like a lot of the far right parties they have a lot of rhetoric talking about the Muslims, the invasion, the replacement, the rape gangs. We've got National Rally in France. You've got the FPO in Austria. You've got AFD in Germany. But at the same time, at least I'm seeing some sort of attraction or collaboration with Zionism, right? Like I'm seeing a lot of that happening as a kind of kosher right wing forming in Europe. And so I know that, Rupert has tweeted about like Israel and stuff like this. But that was back when he was a member of Reform. And that was the party line at the time. Like he was forced to tweet those things. I get that. So I guess the question is, in your estimation, is Rupert Lowe actually like a real nationalist, or is he a part of this kind of orchestrated Zionist kosher thing that's been happening in Europe? I don't know if I'm phrasing that properly, but you know what I'm trying to get to.
It's a very nuanced discussion to get there. Rupert isn't a nationalist. Rupert is, and it's a very, the problem is people misunderstand the term, but Rupert's like an old Tory. He's like a very old generation social conservative. So there's an element of nationalism in that, but his heart is in old Toryism. And old Toryism is separate from what is the modern Tory party / the Conservative Party. And Rupert comes from old money. But what I in his heart of hearts, and I've not spoken to the man, but I know people close to the circles around it. I would say that Rupert is pro-Israel. I would say that he would lean towards pro-Israel and Zionism. But the people under him who are basically running the party and shaping the policy, anyone under the age of 40 basically doesn't give a fuck about the Holocaust anymore. That hold doesn't hold on to us and people around that. But I think Rupert is savvy enough to understand that, the winds are changing, and why are we going to care about conflicts in the Middle East whenever we have very blatant and obvious conflicts erupting here at home, which is kind of where I would take that position on it. I have my views on the Middle East and various geopolitical conflicts, but at the same time, it's like, look, genocide or not in the Middle East, it's like there's kind of the embers of one brewing right here at home, and it's directed against us and my people. So that's kind of where my interests would be more aligned than rather than the benefit of the Likud regime in Israel.
Right.
So that would be my kind of view. And I think, like Nigel Farage and that sort of generation, they grew up in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and that sort of nominally right-wing sort of social conservatism and Toryism, and that would have had an inherent pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist bias. That's kind of something quite inbuilt in Northern Ireland as well, where it's like Ulster loyalism, Ulster Unionists, the people who were largely rioting last week, generally they would hold very pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist opinions. They would fly Israeli flags and stuff, but they kind of do it as a reaction against like Irish republicanism and like the quote unquote the left in Northern Ireland, who are very overtly pro-Palestinian for various reasons, historical reasons, ideological reasons, and that. So I think quite a lot of, obviously there's going to be Israeli money because there's always Israeli money and there's always Israeli influence. I used to be a member of the Conservative Party. I was once offered to go on a trip to Israel, which I did not take at the time. Just to put that caveat in. So, I mean, I've seen this at work. I've seen it working in the Conservative Party during my time there, party conferences and the Conservative Friends of Israel and all this kind of stuff. So there is this kind of like inherent lingering legacy affiliation. I can only speak for Britain, but, this kind of lingering historical understanding that if you're going to be politically right-wing in the UK, you sort of have to align with these sort of various views. And that's very much, like I say, anyone under the age of 40, I think that's just not washing anymore because of the way Israel conducts itself, and people just aren't beholden to the sort of worldview that the boomers have inflicted upon them whenever they can see the results of it on the streets.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. And it seems like that bond, right? The bond between the British right and Zionism, that kind of kicked off with, was it Winston Churchill's essay? Was it Zionism or Bolshevism, the fight for the soul of the Jewish people? That was an old article, basically. Because a lot of basically Jews in England had two options. You could be a communist internationalist or, a nationalist, and by the way, get the hell out of the country and go to Israel. And of course there's the link between the Balfour Declaration, the Rothschilds, and the mandate that was given over after World War I.
Well, it's kind of nuanced again because in Israel was founded out of effectively a war waged against the British mandate. And that was waged via a terrorism campaign against British soldiers who had effectively, saved these people from camps just years before. So I've always, I've evolved in my views towards Israel, especially since 2023 for various obvious reasons. I think pretty much everyone would understand at this stage. But I mean, there's this I've always kind of pushed back, even back whenever I was a bit more conventional in my views on this idea that, British right-wing politics should just inherently be pro-Israeli because, they're anti-terrorism, they're this, they align with these on so many views. And I've always just kind of niggled. It's kind of like the British version of the USS Liberty. It's like, well, if they're our greatest allies, how come they celebrate Ergun and
blowing up the King David Hotel,
tried to murder the Queen, blew up the King David Hotel, hung Sergeant
Bernadotte, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, in Northern Ireland as well, there's this weird, and this probably in a roundabout way is an Israeli op as well. This kind of idea and loyalism that the IRA and Irish republicanism is pro-Israeli because there are pro-Palestinian because there are brothers in the international Marxist struggle. They just have a tan and worship and pray funny. But then there's also this weird idea in loyalism. And again, I'm pretty sure going back, you'll find there's some kind of Mossad, Hasbara paid operation here where if you speak to a lot of Ulster loyalists and stuff, why are you pro-Israeli? They'll come out with this anecdotal, which has no evidence I've ever found, idea that the Israeli Mossad provided Uzis to the Ulster volunteer force. It's well, I'm pretty sure that not that I've done the in-depth research, but there's generally no real footage of the UVF or Lloyd's paramilitaries ever using Uzis or ever being reported by it. But it's just this kind of a given that, the Israeli Mossad helped us in our fight against the IRA. And it's did they really? I don't really think they did. I don't think, knowing the way Israel conducts itself, I'm pretty sure they're not on our side or even the IRA side. I'm pretty sure they're just, anti everyone in this fight.
Right. Now, so about this, is there a path electorally for Rupert and the Restore Britain party? Do you think that there is the will to do? I mean, obviously, in the last election, we saw I think Reform picked up. They just sweeped Labour out of government, and
elections. It was the local elections, council elections, municipal government.
Okay, so that wasn't Parliament.
That wasn't Parliament. No, our next parliamentary election is in 2029 or potentially before. But the recent elections have been so it's like the people who go out and organize your bin pickup and how your local government works.
Sure.
There is also, we call it devolved government here, which is a state level government in Wales and Scotland. Reform did very well in Wales, and then they kind of overperformed expectations in Scotland, but they're nowhere near the government in Scotland. But the next election in Wales, they could run the state level government in Wales, but they completely decimated the Labour Party in all their local, pretty much all their heartlands. So it's kind of seen as a projection of where the next national general election might go is if the Labour Party has just been wiped out at local government, and local government is where they build up their activist base. And especially in the areas where Labour's won elections for over a century, if they've just been completely wiped out by Reform, then it's kind of a good sign that, the next election, Labour's going to be kicked out of office here.
Yeah.
So,
but geez, 2029 is a long way away. That is a long way away.
Well, it's been a very long 2 years since this despicable government came into power, but there is, again, British politics is so hard to explain. There's so much nuances to it, but we've got I think you'll call it a special election there, but there's a by-election coming up tomorrow, actually, in Makersfield, north of Manchester.
Okay.
Where effectively Keir Starmer's, he's going to be kicked out of office. Everyone hates him. The Labour Party knows it's not going to get re-elected under him. He's going to be kicked out of office. So the mayor of Manchester, who is somewhat popular, relatively compared to the rest of the Labour Party, is standing in this election tomorrow, this special election, by-election. And the expectations is if he gets elected, which he probably just will, because of Restore, and that's another nuanced conversation in of itself. But if he gets elected, Andy Burnham, tomorrow, he's then going to launch a leadership challenge against Keir Starmer and potentially push Keir Starmer out of I'm not too sure what the term would be in American politics, but like a leadership spill or something like that. Effectively, challenge the party leadership to push out Keir Starmer out of office as prime minister, and then for him to take the office himself. And then that could lead to, his vision for government doesn't have an electoral mandate, because the manifesto he's going to implement he didn't stand on an election. He wasn't even elected on the election into which the government's manifesto was elected. So there's potential, like if Andy Burnham kind of screws up, which being a Labour person, he almost inevitably will, is, well, what does the Labour Party do then? It's like, well, we've kicked out this useless diversity-loving retard for another useless diversity-loving retard. Like, so there's the other scenario where Reform could win the by-election tomorrow. So that stops Andy Burnham, who's kind of like seen as the heir presumptive, to just get elected and just become the prime minister. So if that doesn't happen, then the Labour Party's kind of stuck like, well, what happens now? They'll then have to hold a leadership election, because Keir Starmer he's just not viable as a prime minister. So that's whenever, and this is the scenario I hope happens. This is why I'm kind of a bit annoyed Restore is standing in this election. But if Andy Burnham loses the election, then the various factions of the Labour Party will go to war with each other, and that hopefully just completely destroy each other, totally make the government just not viable, collapse the government, ideally within the next year, and then force us into an early election.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting pathway. How long are the normal terms of service in Parliament? Are they 4-year, 6-year? How long?
It's a 5-year term. 5 years. Generally, it's a 5-year term, but the prime minister can call the king to dissolve parliament at will. But generally, there has to be a decent enough reason. But
the king could always dissolve unilaterally on his own, right?
Not really.
Oh, really?
Not really, because there's a lot of conventions, like unwritten rules and stuff in the British. Like the king can, in theory, the king can do all kinds of stuff and just decide to fire the prime minister or do this, that, or whatever. But it's understood that if he did, it would kind of be the end of the monarchy.
Oh, interesting.
So, it's a very British. The British system is a very nuanced. It's one thing for the American system. It's all the rules are written down in the Constitution, and then if judges decide to actually abide with it and enforce it is another question. But in Britain, like, a lot of stuff is run via convention. It's not written down, it's not codified. But there's like the House of Lords is the best example of this. It's like there's an understanding. Yeah. A general understanding, like, this is what we can do and this is what we just don't do. We legally could do this, but it's not really what we do, because it's, it would look very bad. It would be the end of this institution. It'd cause this constitutional crisis. Like, we've seen a lot of this in Brexit, like the Supreme Court and all. That was like an Americanism that Tony Blair tried to bring into the UK, which didn't really work. We used to have like our highest court of appeal were the Law Lords, which were members of the House of Lords, the highest judges of the land. But then Tony Blair brought in the Supreme Court based on the American model. And then in Brexit, this caused a massive constitutional crisis where the judges who are meant to enact the laws in the name of the monarch overruled the Queen at the time on a prorogation of Parliament. And that was just a whole disaster and very complex at the time. So it's a very nuanced. I love it in many respects. The history and pardon me, the history and the constitutional evolution and all this stuff. But then again, it also has unfortunately allowed it to be subverted by very malicious, unscrupulous actors who just want to effectively abolish the country and the people that make it up.
Right. Yeah. It's tragic. It's so tragic to see what's happened to Britain, you know. It's heartbreak. And, you know, it was kind of a part of my red pill journey or whatever. I mean, the first time that I went to England was 2008. And I didn't really, it took like a year or two for it to click in my head, you know, but it's like, you know, I took off from New York City and I flew into London, and then I went to Paris, and then Amsterdam. But the thing was that every city that I went to, it was like New York again.
It was the same.
It was just like New York again. It's like, wait a minute, time out. Where's the fucking tea? Like, where can I go get a cup of tea? Or like, you know, so it took like a year or two for me to realize, like, wait a minute, every major metropolitan area is basically just like the same globo homo corporate bullshit. Where like the unique character of Paris is gone. It was gone in 2008. Same with England and all of the above. It didn't click for me for a while, but then it did, and it's like, oh my God. Now, what is before we get into the Irish stuff, I guess one last question about Britain. What is the feeling on the ground of King Charles? What are people's opinion of him? Do they like him? Are they kind of annoyed with him? Is he viewed as like a globalist type of thing, or is he kind of What do people think about him?
Well, I live in Northern Ireland and in a very pro-monarchist loyalist part of Northern Ireland, so it's a bit, but a trend I personally, I am pro-monarchy. Might not have the best views of the king, but you know, I like the institution. I like the history behind it, and I don't think Britain can ever really be a republican form of government for various reasons. But I am seeing a trend very much on the right wing of politics, where there is sort of, it might not be explicitly pro-republican in the sense of instituting, you know, like a constitutional republic, you know, codified by that way, but certainly a sort of anti-monarchy, maybe House of Windsor view, where they're just kind of view that the monarchy has been globalized. It is, and I mean, I do see it like in some surprising areas, like even some loyalists are very frustrated, and a lot of ex-squaddies, ex-soldiers that I know are sort of the same mindset. I kind of view the king and the institution itself as kind of as a prisoner of the times in many respects. I do think that King Charles is probably a bit too wedded to this kind of defender of the faiths instead of the defender of the faith idea. But I kind of view it as a prisoner of the British system and the British institutions that developed after the Second World War. The end of empire, where we moved from this sort of monocultural British ethno-state that was then in charge of this multicultural, multiracial, multi-religious empire. Well, the empire obviously was dissolved, dismantled intentionally and maliciously, in my point of view. And instead, the idea was that you would think like the British monarch should be like an ethnarch in a sort of way. You know, it should be a representative of British people.
The ethnos, yeah.
Whereas the British state itself, well, how can you have a British monarch who's a representative who is an ethnarch of its people whenever the British state over which it effectively reigns, or is kind of in a way is constrained by, is devoted to this idea of dismantling the homogeneity and the ethnic identity of the people itself. To, you know, we dissolve the empire abroad to bring the various peoples of the empire into Britain. So in a way, like, you've got this very bizarre evolution of the institution of the monarchy itself, from this sort of like representative of the white dominions, the Anglo-British Celtic identity of like Canada, Australia, to a degree South Africa, you know, these settler Anglo countries that were created out of the empire, to where it's moved from that to being like an attempt to try and refashion it, and particularly after 1997 and the machinations of Tony Blair, where they tried to refashion the monarchy to be like this sort of like unifying multicultural symbol that unites various disparate peoples under it, because the Queen can wear didn't wear a hijab, but she'd wear like a head cover whenever she goes abroad. She'd visit these multicultural schools in London. The King gives plaudits towards some of this stuff as well, and it's like, well, it's never really going to work, because these people you bring into the country have a very in-depth ethnic resentment against the country to begin with. So how do you plan to refashion the British monarchy to appeal to these people by making it like this woke, diverse institution? And I think the Queen, to her credit, there's this idea in certain elements of the British right wing that, the Queen, God rest her soul, is like a traitor because she didn't walk in the House of Parliament and throw up a Roman and, like say we're deporting them all now. Like that kind of weird schizo idea. But, I think the reaction against like Princess Diana, I'm not saying like the various rumors around there, but who Princess Diana ended up going with, the Egyptian Dodi Al Fayed, and the sort of ostracism of her from the royal house kind of says, from the Queen at the time, like, yeah, okay, maybe that's kind of where they align on some stuff. But again, like I say, the monarchy, again, the King probably is on that side of things inherently, but I think the monarchy is just kind of, like if the Queen came out or the King came out and said, ethnic rights for ethnic Brits, like this government would just immediately, okay, we're Republican, we're getting rid of the institution, this is a racist holdover of British white supremacist colonialism. It's that kind of thing. Is unfortunately the monarchy has had to evolve, or in many ways been shaped by the governments under it post World War II. And as I think pretty much every single European descended country in Europe and outside of Europe since World War II has been shaped by the narrative post World War II.
Yeah. No, I totally see it. Now, let's moving on to Ireland. We have been seeing a lot of unrest in Ireland. There's been a lot of migrant gangs, migrant rapes. The government, obviously, like I remember there was a guy who was like a Catholic teacher that got like thrown in jail. Well, of course, that was Southern Ireland. But, he got thrown in jail for, I think it was like saying that boys can be boys and girls are girls, or something.
No,
like
he had there was a trans identifying student in his class, and he refused to refer to it by its preferred pronouns.
Ah, yes, that was it. But so there are differences between, obviously, Ireland and North Ireland, different governments, different problems. But tell me about what is going on. I'm closer with people, I guess, in Ireland. Not to be like an asshole about it or anything. My family's from Mayo. So I'm
Northern Ireland is best Ireland. That's all you need to know. North Korea's best Korea, Northern Ireland's best Ireland.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll find out. But
so look, all I'm going to say is which ones burned out all the migrants over the past couple of weeks.
Listen. Tell me about this. How did that start?
Not condoning it.
How did that begin? What kicked off the unrest in Northern Ireland?
So, it's been a long running thing. This is actually the third year in a row. Like, there's always riots in Northern Ireland. It's kind of like the national sport. I mean, I don't think I'm revealing too much here, but I rioted whenever I was younger against our brothers and sisters on the other side of the divide. Now we're all hopefully going to be friends against a common foe now. But we've always had riot. There's a riot season in Northern Ireland in July. It's just kind of expected. There's going to be disorder. So that is kind of, and obviously the history of the place with the Troubles. There's always been this kind of idea of community defense, community self-defense, be it against the other, across the sectarian divide, be it against the police or the army, or, there's always been this sort of inherent understanding in certain parts of Northern Ireland that people will congregate together, men will come together to defend the local community if needs be, or for various reasons, and that might take various forms. So that's kind of on the base layer that we've got. But this is the third year where we've had migrant-inspired riots. That's because in 2024, of course, we had the aftermath of the atrocity in Southport. That was just such an atrocity. There was riots pretty much across most of the United Kingdom at the time. Northern Ireland, standing with our brothers on the mainland, came out in support of that. Last year, 1 year exactly to the day that the riots happened last week, was there was in Ballymena, which is a very loyalist town. There was a Roma gypsy rape gang, literally a rape gang. Had raped 3 women and young girls. I believe the youngest was 14, 15, and then I think it was a 22-year-old. 3 women in quick succession over the space of a month were gang raped by a gang of Roma gypsies in Ballymena. The local community, there'd been frictions for a long time because it was known that these gypsies were involved in drug dealing. They were involved in various forms of crime. They were bringing down the local area. They were begging in the streets, all this kind of stuff. The local community had been on to the police. They'd been on to the local government. Of course, they didn't want to know. After the 3rd rape, the locals had just had enough. On the first night, and this had an echo of what happened last week, is a very organized, very well disciplined group of men who know what they were going to do, where they were going to do it, who they were going to do it to, went to the houses where these Roma gypsies were, did what I euphemistically called direct action, and effectively, the term we use in Northern Ireland is put out. We're putting them out of the local community. These people, they put out the gypsies from the community, and then a lot after that is you had, usually it's mostly like teenagers and stuff. Other people come out and engage in what is called recreational rioting. This is just kind of like you go out to throw stones at the police or engage in a bit of Northern Ireland. This is Northern Ireland recreational rioting. National
I like
sport.
this is nice.
Yeah, so we're very sophisticated in how we do it. It's usually this stuff which is kind of, I can't condone it. Repeating
Absolutely.
this phrase I did
Disavow all
on
violence.
Bleak Stream. I can't condone it, but I'm not going to condemn it. I understand. Look, rioting is the voice of the unheard. That's the adage we're told, isn't it? Rioting is the voice of the oppressed.
When the time for talk is over, then it's what? Yeah. It's time for violence. Because not saying that that's a good thing, not saying that I approve of that, but when you get these people and it's like, you've got real problems that are happening in your country, and then you're getting banned, shut off the internet, your voice is being squashed, and then the police are showing up at your house and interrogating you about your posts, and then that gets out. Like, obviously it's like, okay, well, y'all don't want to talk anymore, so let's try a different language here.
Yeah. So the big thing about Ballymena as well, which has left a big thing in the craw of a lot of people here, was some of the gypsies involved in the rapes itself, and the day after the rape went back to Romania. Immediately were on a flight back to Romania and never heard from again. The 13 and I think it was the 14-year-old boy who they did arrest, eventually the charges were dropped against him. So that really has aggravated a lot of people in Northern Ireland. Is that okay? So we had this rape spree in Northern Ireland, in Ballymena, and the only people who have actually been sentenced and sent to prison for it were the people who protested against it. That really stuck in the craw of a lot of people. So that left a lot of lingering tension in places. In my own town where I live myself, just last year, alongside the Ballymena stuff, we had a Somali almost kill a young lad, a teenager on Ballyholme Beach. Came down with a knife, got in a fight with local lads, swung it at him, all caught on film, just missed his neck just by an inch or so. We had a local asylum seeker, a black guy who was in the local hotel. Thank you to the government for putting him there. Was filmed trying to enter people's houses one night, and then the next night was, if I remember correctly, he was spotted in a local park walking about naked with a large knife. So that's just a local area, and I live in a place that's way out of the way, very middle class, very well to do. In Newton Abbey, which is kind of like the heart of this stuff, there's basically like a low level insurgency being waged in a place called Newton Abbey against landlords and the social housing provider, against to get them to stop housing migrants. Like if they put up banners and signs and spray paint on the walls, like, do not house Muslims, do not house illegals in this community. If you do, we're going to burn down your house, and all this kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of tension, just underlying tension, and the demographic change in Northern Ireland is very apparent. People are seeing it before their eyes. Before I moved to London in the mid 2010s, like, this was, I would tell my parents off for being racist. I moved. That's my background. I would tell my mum off for saying racist things. But then again, Northern Ireland was a 99% white, and the division here was between Catholic and Protestant. That's who we hated. I went to England, and I was red pilled. But since I've come back from London, I was shocked by how demographically this place had just changed from then. Yeah. And since I've been back here since 2022, it's really ramped up, and people are noticing it, and they're not happy with it. And
what is
this is the kind? Oh, sorry, go on.
What is the current racial demographic of Northern Ireland?
Well, the quote that we are read by our social betters is that, well, we're still 97% white in Northern Ireland, but that was the last census, and it's like, well, you don't include refugees, you don't include illegal immigrants in the census, and you take a walk through central Belfast, you take a walk through Dungannon, which is 40% non-British or Irish born, and I think most of them are from East Timor. Like, what? Why are East Timorese people turning up in a small town in Northern Ireland of all places? This is the stuff that's read off to us by our social betters, our elected representatives in the media. How can we be racist and all this kind of stuff? And, we couldn't live together, so what would be the problem with bringing in Muslims? And it's like, just this. The history of Northern, it really is, it boggles the mind that they come out with this stuff. It's like the history of Northern Ireland, renowned for its ethnic conflict between basically the same people who just pray to different denominations of the same faith. And especially like the Alliance Party, which is like our progressive, liberal, center ground, moderate party here, is they keep coming out with this line, well, we can't live together, so let's just bring like Somalis to live in amongst us, as if that's going to make things better. And it's like, well, it obviously doesn't. It's like this basic, like, I genuinely, like, these are the people who look at Northern Ireland, are ashamed of it because of the sectarian division, which, there's something to be said there, but then they look at like San Francisco or Seattle, and they think, well, that's where all the cool, progressive stuff happens. So let's try and bring San Francisco into Northern Ireland and become a progressive, multiracial society. And that's just the liberals. That's like the middle class liberals. Like the Irish Republican left wing parties are just on an entirely different level. Yeah, entirely. And this is the dichotomy we're fed with. So you have this stuff going on in Northern Ireland. People see it. They see it happening. They don't like it. They push back against it. And then out of the blue, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I have a bit of an irregular sleeping pattern. But I woke up and seen the video of a man in Republican West Belfast, West Belfast, the New Lodge, having his eyes gouged out and almost beheaded by a Sudanese man. And I knew immediately, the second I seen that video, that I knew that it's going to kick off. There will be a response to this. And I was working that day, so I went into work, and it's all what everyone talked about. And then by I was looking through the Facebook groups, like the local community Facebook group, and like boomers under their own name were posting stuff from like a Stormfront or a Blood and Honor forum. Like that's the level of, like, the boomers were waking up, they were seeing the video, and they were like, hang them all. Wow. And I was just like, yeah, this has really hit a chord. And it was reflected throughout the day, because where I was working, we were told that we're closing early because the threat of protests were so strong. Like I say, I'm in a very middle class, out of the way area. And as the day went on, you just seen the press conferences from the police. They knew what was coming, just begging people to not be violent in their response that evening. And it was just like, it's not going to happen. It just wasn't. And as we've seen in Ballymena, but on a much larger scale. And a lot of the dichotomy around this is saying it was paramilitary organized. It was the UVF, it was the UDA who organized it, the police themselves. And it was the police. If anyone's going to say the paramilitaries were involved in it, it would be the police who would have the incentive to say it. They came out and said that they didn't see any paramilitary organization of the event itself. This was people woke up, seen the video, got in on their local community groups, Facebooks and social medias, and said, this is what we're doing tonight, and this is how we're going to do it. So round about midday is whenever you've seen the graphics starting to come out saying where people are going to protest, come out wearing all black. No one's going to come with cameras. If you come with a camera or if you're seen with a phone filming, we're taking your camera off it and we're destroying it.
Based.
And this was all organized in about 12 hours, about 12 to 14 hours after the attack itself. So whenever people woke up around about 8, 9, 10 o'clock, in a couple of hours, local communities, and particularly East Belfast, organized themselves what they were going to do that night. And the police were totally unprepared for it. That's why we seen what happened that night. Thousands, probably the biggest riots and protests we've seen in Northern Ireland for a long time. Police completely overwhelmed by it, because of how fast it all happened and the unexpected nature of the atrocity and the response to it. But that night we seen in Ballymena, I think it was about 3 houses were targeted. In East Belfast, it was 2 streets. And there's the video going around of the crowd of guys just going down house to house, knocking the doors, kicking the doors in and telling people, you're getting out of this house because this house is being burned out. You're being put out of the local community.
Wow.
And that all happened within the space, from my understanding, it was about half an hour to 40 minutes, probably a bit longer than they expected, but that's what they did in about that there. And then the guys involved in that dispersed. And then it was largely like the teenagers and other people who were there for the recreational rioting aspect of it. So there is this quite surprising level of sophistication to this disorder in Northern Ireland at the moment. And, again, I can't condone it, but I'm not going to condemn it.
Yeah.
So, there is this organization that's going on. And I'm just thinking people in the rest of Europe, people in England, people even in the Republic of Ireland, like after Southport, all those thousands of patriots who were pulled into the courts and the prisons because they were going out throwing stuff at the police with faces completely uncovered, or they were live streaming themselves doing it. It's just like, what is this? And then in Northern Ireland, you've seen it effectively professionally done.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and it's like
this is a model. This is definitely a model. Like, people need to be aware of that, and also just, not necessarily encouraging or condoning the overthrow of the government or anything like that. But like, if you're going to engage in behavior like this, and then lay off the gas, well, then what's going to happen? You're going to get a backlash from the government coming after Europe. So if the people do decide to rise up, they should not be doing that half-assed. They've got to be committed, because otherwise there's going to be tribunals for all the people that are involved. So that's very, very difficult. But here,
go
ahead.
People are being pulled into courts, but they're not on, like, after Southport and after Southampton, because there was protests in Southampton after Henry Nowak was killed. So this is another aspect to it. I came back from the re-immigration summit. Straight away, the Henry Nowak stuff happened. There was protest in Southampton. Some of that turned violent. Of course, people who didn't know better, didn't cover their faces, engaged in it, filmed themselves doing it, or had people filming them doing it. And a lot of those people are now being pulled into court. But especially after Southport, where we've seen thousands of people being pulled into the courts, I'm going to be surprised if we're going to see anything like that. If even 100 people are pulled into the courts after this in Northern Ireland, I would be surprised, because the prisons are overfull here to begin with, but also just the collective nature and the covering up and the understanding of how people are going to conduct this. And some of the people I've seen who have been pulled into court, they for whatever reason, foolishness, naivety or whatever, like one of the guys was uncovered with his face on display, like hitting a police van window with a bottle. And it's like, well, guy, what can you expect at that stage? But so there is this. I think that Northern Ireland is as you say, it's becoming a model. If you're going to do this stuff, if there's going to be a migrant atrocity, if a community is going to have a response to it, make a demonstration against it, this is the way people need to sort of understand. This is the very basics of how you're going to conduct it. Everyone dresses the same, no revealing clothing, don't reveal your face. No one comes with their phones, or if they're caught with their phones and they're filming, their phones are getting smashed. No journalists, no one comes in with a camera, that kind of stuff. Just this very basic stuff. If you're going to engage in this stuff and make this demonstration. And it hasn't stopped. So the first night was obviously the big night, and it quickly tailed off the days after that. But it hasn't stopped. Like, there's still houses where people are being put out, cars are being burned. Demonstrations are still happening across Northern Ireland on a much smaller scale, because as soon as the police could get its act together, it brought in hundreds of police from Scotland and Northern Ireland, Scotland and England to quash it. But even on the mainland in Great Britain, because we have a bit of a media blackout trying to quash this now, but like, there was demonstrations in Edinburgh, which is a very posh, very left-wing part of Scotland. Never thought I'd hear that. In Glasgow, we had hundreds of lads fully maxed up, took to the streets, marching through the streets. Demonstrations across England, in Brighton, Southampton, of course. There was a guy almost killed by police in Leeds whenever the police, quite gruesome footage of a police officer grabbing a patriot and then just swinging him around and smashing his head off a bollard. Rumors went around saying he died. Thankfully, he didn't. But so Liverpool, like, there's a lot of tension in the UK at the moment, and there's still lingering tension in Northern Ireland. I think the focus on Northern Ireland at the moment is because next month is riot season, and they're trying to quash it here and now before there can be any of the sort of general usual annual recreational rioting that this place is known for. But it's scarcely a week after the response. I think it was this morning or yesterday, there was a guy who was clearly Middle Eastern, armed with knives, trying to get into people's houses in West Belfast, just across the road from a place called Sandy Row, the village. I believe it's a Republican nationalist area. And that's doing the rounds. And it's just like, these people we can't live with them. At every opportunity, they prove, this claim about why is society becoming so racist? Why is there suddenly like this massive uptick of white nationalism in Britain? It's just like, well, it would help if they didn't confirm every worst stereotype about them on a nearly daily basis. Because every day, pretty much every day, there is a girl's being raped somewhere, someone's being murdered somewhere. There's some kind of new scandal where it's just becoming blatant that the native British Irish population in these islands is on a different level, a lower level than those that the government are flooding the country with.
Unreal.
Unreal.
Well, listen, I know it is very late where you are, and I want to thank you so much for joining and giving us an update. We'll have to have you back on the show as this progresses. Definitely, for those of you watching, please make sure that you follow Michael De LeBrock over on Twitter at mdelebrock1. He's got a bunch of stuff. He'll be posting updates and also, talking about some other stuff as well. The Ukraine crisis, what's going on in Russia. That's a big spot, a big focus for you as well, I know. So if there's anything else that you want to plug.
Britain's such a depressing place. I have to focus on a horrific ethnic conflict in Eastern Europe to try and lighten my spirits, let's put it that way.
My wife does this thing where she listens to disaster podcasts. Because it's like you get the kids and they're constantly, give me this, give me that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you start to get in your head like, oh, God, this sucks. And so then she'll like listen to a disaster podcast about how somebody has to like eat their own arm off to get out of a cliff or something. And she's like, you know what? I can handle this. I can handle the kids. This is fine. Yeah. So I totally understand. It's like
people ask me, what podcast do you listen to? Or where do you get your information on Russia and Ukraine? What good Russian podcast do you listen to? And it's like, it's like, bro, I look, whenever my Instagram feed, whenever I look through it, it's just like pictures of cute turtles doing cute things. And like, that's how I zone out. It's like half the day I'm looking at ethnic rape and genocide in Western Europe. And then the other half is like, I look at Slavs murdering each other horrifically in various new innovative ways. My release from that is I look at nice pictures of like bears being cute. Like that's basically how I. So,
Right. You're either going to laugh about it or you're going to cry about it. So it's all about
yeah,
how
I mean,
you
at
cope.
some point you stare into the abyss, and the abyss just stares back. And it's like, okay, my response to that. Oh, look, there's a nice video of a capybara wearing a hat.
So true. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great, and I think we've got another guest. By the way, if you want to click the link and come on in, we're going to be talking with PNW Gorilla here in a minute. But thank you so much for joining us. It was great.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. Great to catch up. It's been a while.
Try and get a better camera next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, with that being said, we do have some sponsors that we've got to thank for making this program possible. Hold on. Let's see. One moment. Let's see. Boop. There we go. And let's see here. While we're waiting for our friend Alex from ODGG Supply. All right, hold on, let me text him real quick. We ready? Come on in. Come on in. All right, yeah, and I thought it would be good to get like the perspective of an actual Brit, somebody that was over there, get a little bit of an update on the ground. But now we're going to be turning to an American's view of what's been going on. I know Alex just released a video this morning, 25-minute video about what's been going on in England. And so we're going to get his take on that. But in the meantime, I do want to tell you about North Idaho Tallow Company. They make soap and skincare products that won't make you gay. They don't have endocrine disruptors in them. They are made out of all natural ingredients, tallow, lye, water, and some essential oils, no harsh chemicals. And this stuff is so good for your skin. It is great for smelling good, looking good. They've also got a bunch of lip balms, regular balms, all kinds of stuff, candles that don't have soy in it. So please go visit our friends at idahotallow.com. And with that, let's see if we can get our friend Alex lined up on this, and let's see how this goes. Alex, how are you? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Geez, you're out.
Oh, wow. We did it.
You're out in the woods. You're out in the wilderness. I should have
Yeah,
expected that.
the Wi-Fi was not working in my house, so I dipped off to the local river, of which there's better signal.
Wow.
Go figure.
Well, that's crazy. Well, so Alex, I saw you you released a video. Let me see if I can pull it up. PNW Gorilla, but you released a 20-minute rant a little earlier today. Here it is on his X account about an hour ago, talking about what was going on with the rape report. What are your thoughts as an American, as a white guy, as somebody from Europe that's seeing our ancestral homeland invaded with these rape gangs? What is this? What are your feelings about this?
I mean, let's be honest. It's arguably one of the most evil things that can be done to a woman. I say arguably because I know some people will say that, death is worse. And in ways I almost disagree.
There are some things worse than death.
There are things worse than death. And in that video, there was one part that really just I stopped talking and I just kind of like processed it for a second. There was multiple reports in that where they're abducting preteen white girls and taking them into the Middle East to be child brides. Mm. And that's why I say that there are worse things than death. And in my opinion, that is worse. There was one of the stories of the one of the girls was she got out of captivity away from this rape gang, and she went to the local police, and the local police brought her back to the rape gang. Hmm. Hmm. And I mean, and I don't know about you, I know you have kids as well, but like, I cannot for a second, I can't process how many fathers there are in the UK right now that how do you not have more anger in your soul? How are you not vengeful? How are you not mad enough to do something about this? Because I can say from, that's something that keeps me up at night. Thinking about the women in my life, thinking about my children, thinking about my mother, my wife, my sisters, like, and if I found out that, they were abducted by one of these rape gangs, I know, just thinking about it, the amount of rage that it instills in me.
Oh, yeah, I would turn into Liam Neeson from Taken immediately.
Yeah, no, I do not understand how on earth the European man, the British man, the UK man has become so cucked that they wouldn't do anything. And I'm not trying to like cast too much hate, but it's like I would come unglued. So this is definitely something that's hitting home for me. And it's incredible how many people, and that was something, I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Matt Walsh, actually. But he said that anyone quiet about this right now should be cataloged. It should be made note of, anyone that's being quiet about this story and why they're being quiet about this story.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. It's, on the one hand, we just heard from Mike, and I guess there's some hope over there for some sort of electoral reform. But man, it is getting to the point where it's like, why, at least over there, why are we talking about elections at this point? I mean, the government is completely illegitimate. I mean, they're taking rape victims and depositing them back with their rapists. They're covering up all of this stuff. We had people like, was it Jimmy Savile, right, who was high up in the government. He was a pedophile involved with Epstein and all of this type of stuff. So, I mean, these governments are just completely worthless. Not only worthless, but illegitimate, in my opinion. And so it's going to be interesting to see what winds up happening. And for sure, the people in Northern Ireland, I think, are kind of paving the way for civil disobedience in a way that they aren't getting rounded up en masse like some of the demonstrations in England and Southern Ireland were in the past.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that you can say no. Like that's a thing. You you can get away with it too. And if enough people said no, and I was watching a video about this last night of like civil disobedience, and this guy was talking about if everyone just filed exempt on their taxes, that would almost completely just crumble the entire system as we know it in a single tax season. If everyone just filed exempt and was just like, no. Now is that going to happen? That's a different question, and that's kind of I want to say besides the point, but yeah, we need more civil disobedience. We need more people saying no. We need more people showing that they're angry. But so many people are still so like kind of like COVID, right? Where like so many people are still worried about losing their jobs. And I'm like, and I still hear from, I don't know, people like, oh, I got to put food on the table. And it's like, dog, I'm gonna be real, man. Like at a certain point, like I have to ask, what is enough for you to say no? What is enough for you to finally, throw in the towel and be like, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not playing taxes anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. No. And that doesn't even have to be like strictly violence, just like non-compliance, civil disobedience. What's it going to take for people to say no? And I don't think enough people are even just at least discussing that in itself, of just what's going to take for you to say no?
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's funny too, because it's like, we've got a thing, not to schizo post or go all over the place, but it's like here in Idaho, at the end of this week, I'm going down to Boise tomorrow. We've got elections for our new GOP party chair. And for whatever reason, in the running, in the contention, is a guy that was like pro-mask mandate. And it's like, it's 2026. What planet are you on that you think that anybody is going to vote for this? But anyway,
well, so before I hopped on here, I went in your comment section for this post, and somebody was trying to say that the rape gang file was false and that you're spreading fake information. And they posted some AI screenshot saying that that no, in fact, most of the gang rapes weren't Muslims. They're actually, and they're trying to go for they're not Muslims. They're actually Asians because, you know, like they're trying to classify Muslims as what was it, like Middle Eastern Asians or something like that. And it's like, dude, you can't. We're at a certain point where it's like we're so sick and tired of the semantics game. You know, like this whole like, oh, you misspoke slightly, so gotcha. And it's like, no, we're kind of done. We're kind of done with the semantics. I'm sick of people wanting a source for everything. I think that's something that I'm kind of passed on, and it does make making content harder because so many people want a source and so many people are asking for sources, and it's like, are we really there still? Like, do I need to give a source to every single story?
You know what my source is? Common sense, right? Like source, I don't know. I made it up. Common sense. Hello.
I said that yesterday, actually. And I was like, look, if you didn't see the story and if you weren't watching it, then I'm just going to say I made it up. Because like, no, dude, I don't have to give a source for every single story. You know, if we're looking at a people that has been uncovered time and time and time again, you know, look at how many combat veterans witnessed with their own eyes the Muslims and the Pakis and the Afghanis, you know, raping children. There are so many eyewitnesses, combat veterans saying that they saw this firsthand. And even firsthand accounts, people are still going to say, well, what's your source?
Nigga, I saw it. Like, what do you want? Oh my God. And speaking of, this is a great little segue because there was a video that came out. I actually haven't watched it yet. I haven't screened it. So we're going to be watching this a little bit together for the first time. But a nice Jewish lady got on X basically to laugh about the rape gang. So this is the tweet from Rock. The censored Rock, not Grok, just Rock. 250,000 little girls get raped, and the left thinks it's funny. We're in a really bad place. Let's take a look at whatever fresh hell this is.
The Rape Gang Inquiry report is out.
And she's laughing.
And I'm going to try not to laugh because it feels mean. I haven't read the whole thing. It's 219 pages. It's only just come out a couple of hours ago. Okay, so this time last year, I went to Alistair Harrison.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay, it doesn't matter. We got what we need anyway. Woman cracks open the video. 250,000 girls, according to this report, have been abused, raped, whatever. And she's laughing about it.
And you're laughing.
It's a joke.
And
it's
you're
a joke
laughing.
to her. Yeah.
Wasn't it Sam Hyde that said it?
Yes.
Of they want your children raped and murdered, and they think it's funny.
Yeah, that was the quote. Gay race communism, state mandated homosexuality,
and they think it's funny. You know, and that's something else that, like, you know, you might not see it as much, and you and I have talked about this offline and online, but when you're behind enemy lines, you know, like here in Washington State, I can actively see my neighborhoods. I can see my stores. I can see my town changing so quickly before my eyes in such a short amount of time. And myself and all of my friends, the people that I associate with, we can see it. And it's fascinating how many people choose to ignore it. And so I can see firsthand, you know, my area changing before my very eyes. And so I can see the almost a 1-for-1 of, you know, what the UK was going through 10 years ago. And I feel like I'm screaming into the void over here of like, we are going to be the UK in a couple of years. How do you guys not see this? And going to these local charter meetings and going to these local meet the sheriff meetings, and it's incredible how much the boomers and the leftists, they live in a different reality.
Yeah. They
It's
really
like,
do.
They really do. And after my collab with Dale Partridge, going to Arizona, and he lives in it's like a 99% white town. And it's almost exclusively boomers there as well. But they live in a different reality. You know, they don't see what we see, you know, every day. And I'm saying like specifically boomers and those that were able to escape, you know, the inshitification of America and the West in general. There's so many people that still, they don't see it. The retired people, they don't see what's happening.
No. And I was going to say, especially in places like where I live here in North Idaho, you know, it's a predominantly white area, about 90% white where I live. And these people have grown up, you know, they went to public school. They got indoctrinated with all the public school isms of multiculturalism and secularism, blah, blah, blah. And because they're not confronted in reality with actual like racial conflict, they've constructed this fake world that they live in, this neoliberal worldview that just does not correlate to reality at all. And we were talking with Michael De La Brock a little bit ago, and he was mentioning that too. You know, he grew up in Northern Ireland and then moved to England. And when he was in Northern Ireland, he was like, "Oh, what are you, racist?" Because like everybody was white there. And then, you know, he comes back 10 years later, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell happened here? Where did everybody go? We're being replaced. And then, you know, it clicks. But that happens. It's a problem. I don't know how to get through to the boomers, that this is like detrimental, that there's no undoing this, and if there is undoing it, it's going to be very difficult, probably violent.
It's gonna be bad. It's going to,
yeah. So yeah, it's just unbelievable. Go ahead.
No, it really does just feel like screaming into the void sometimes, though. You know, I refuse to be like completely and utterly black-pilled. I refuse to like give up, but it does feel like screaming into the void sometimes, because so many people just don't want to see. And that was something that I was talking about in a stream recently, a stream that actually did have good service. Did you ever watch the Fallout TV show?
I think I watched the first season of it. Yeah,
I believe it was in the first season. But the main character that becomes a paladin, he goes down to a vault, and he takes his suit off, and they put him in pajamas, and he's sitting there with a bowl of popcorn, and he's watching TV. And the vault starts getting raided, and he looks out the window, and there's gunshots, and there's people screaming, and he looks at his slippers, and he looks at his bowl of popcorn, and he looks at the TV. And he doesn't want to get up. And I thought that was one of the most perfect analogies for the West that I have ever seen in my life, of how if you are comfortable, you will do absolutely anything to avoid acknowledging reality.
Yeah, 100%. And it's it's also happening with the MAGA boomers, right? With the MAGA boomers that have had their heads in the sand. You know, they saw everything happen in like the 60s. They know that things were bad, but they have it in their head that because they voted for Donald Trump, that they have undone the revolution of the 1960s, and nothing could be further from the truth.
It's so real.
And they have to like go to all of these like mental gymnastics to explain how, oh, well, this is actually good, and, you know, Trump is actually doing X, Y, and Z thing. And it's like, man, just, not living in reality. They live in a parallel universe. And this has been exacerbated, especially by the fragmentation of the media, frankly. I mean, I know that, you know, independent media is good. Hello, we live in that space, right? But it used to be that, like, families would sit around the television and, you know, watch the 6 o'clock news, and they're all watching, you know, one of three major outlets, and all of their narratives were basically the same, right? Granted, they were fake, they were fake narratives, but everybody was generally on the same page. Since Trump and 2016 and the kind of digital social media revolution, we're all atomized. We're all listening to whichever, podcast, and there really is no commonality anymore. There's no common ground. And this is the big task, I think, for our generation, which is rebuilding social fabric, which is rebuilding those bonds in communities, fraternal organizations, networks, mutual aid. This is the stuff that we need to construct. It's I guess a form of social technology that for sure our grandparents had, but it's gone by the wayside, and we need to pick that back up again.
Maybe I need to, because I haven't actually filmed this topic, but PT a couple weeks ago we had we got into a really, really good topic while rucking. And it was talking about how before it was like roughly 2015 or so, because 2015 is where algorithms actually came out for social media. Before 2015, we were all pretty much watching the same feed. We were all pretty much watching the same TV shows. We're homogenous in that way. And the specific talking point that I was referring to was the show Friends, and how all of us in the 90s, we all watched the show Friends.
Mm-hmm.
You went to work, you went to school, you went wherever you went, and everyone was talking about last night's episode of Friends. The grand finale of Friends. Everyone was talking about the grand finale. Americans shared that unity before algorithms kind of divided us into subcultures and then subcultures and then subcultures and then subcultures and then subcultures, to a point where, now we're arguing about the most hyper specific, niche, irrelevant topics ever thought imaginable. But, before that, we were all watching the same TV show. Now, I'm not trying to say specifically, that we all need to go back and start watching Friends. And I know some people are going to be like, why is Friends matter? I'm like, that's not the point. The point is that we need to go back to being homogenous in every way conceivable, in every way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say maybe we could sub out Seinfeld for Friends. I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
I don't like.
Kidding.
Have you tried to go back and watch TV shows from the 90s? Because man, they were so bad. I watched this.
I don't understand. I mean, God, I love them, Mom and Dad. I know that you're watching, and I love you, and I don't hold this against you at all. But my God, you people let me watch Seinfeld. I grew up watching that show.
It was so
and
bad.
It's awful. It's just promiscuous sex and all of it. Very Jewish as well, by the way. In case you didn't know.
Well, they were all New York Jews, though.
Yeah, they were. And the Dreyfus, right? Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
And none of us even realized that at the time. But then again, that was still back in a time where, I don't know, maybe it was just because the veil was over. There was wool over my eyes, and I didn't see the world for what it was.
Prosperity, man. We had actual prosperity in this. The 1990s was kind of the last hurrah for this country. People had decent jobs. It was before the .com bubble bust. We had. I mean, I remember. I have this vivid memory. I forget how old I was. Probably 5 or 6. But being a part of the 4th of July parade in where was it? Upper Arlington, Ohio, and it was flags were everywhere. Everybody was white. Everybody was nice. You could, go on the street. You could drive your bike, 5 blocks as a 6-year-old kid, go to the store and not worry about it. You couldn't do that now, and the places where I lived in Ohio, Upper Arlington and Dublin, Ohio. Dublin is Indian at this point. It's been completely taken over by Indians and Pakistanis. It's just incredible. It's incredible. But yeah, we need to be engaging in this and engaging in rebuilding communities, being intentional about it. We've got a lot of great stuff cooking here in North Idaho. You've got some great stuff going on in Washington. Your PT days are an absolutely fantastic thing. By the way, I don't know if we were talking about this or not. We might have been. But for anybody that is, concerned about low testosterone, one of the best ways to get your T up is actually to put yourself in a kind of competitive situation with other men, like
Yep.
going rucking. Actually, I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but it's
yeah,
a good
we're
thing.
actually we're going to be doing PT in a couple of hours, right where I am right now. So we're gonna start a little bit downriver from here. We're gonna run this trail up the river, and then we're gonna play some games of my favorite rock. And it's quite literally just like finding a rock around here that is something that you don't want to hold in one hand, but it's kind of struggle to hold or like easier to hold in two hands. And I have a various exercises that we're going to be doing just along the river. Last time we were out here and we did it, a bunch of us jumped in the river afterwards because, you know, we're all just sweating our asses off for an hour and a half. And it's like, well, I'm already here.
Yeah.
But that is something that it's unfortunate how many people don't want to just work out and how many people psych themselves out so much of the most simple things. The amount of men that I hear locally that say, you know, that they're not in shape enough to come work out with us and they're not ready to come work out with us. And I'm like, bud, the only way that you get ready is by doing it. The only way that you get better at doing anything is by doing it. It's like, just show up, get over yourself, just show up. And I feel like that's that small little example right there. I do think that that is a massive problem in America, is that overall American men, Western men have become so unbelievably demoralized and scared, terrified of linking up and talking with anyone. It's unfortunate. I do think that there is going to be a shift and that there's really no way to avoid a large shift in culture and more men are going to start coming together. And you know, hopefully I'm the one here with arms wide open. We're like, all right, bud, here's a backpack. Let's get to walking.
Yeah, no, base. I was going to say, you know, one of the reasons why, and you know, this is a little bit off topic, but I did want to cover this today. And I've got some other stuff that I'm going to cover too when we wrap up here with Alex. But one of the reasons why men our age have been afraid, frankly, to do stuff like this, to get together, to go doing PT, campouts, you know, working out, whatever, is because, you know, we've had groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center running around, basically accusing any white guy of like getting together in a group of more than 3 people of being an extremist. And of course, just yesterday, the news broke, actually, this is from the New York Post, that an SPLC boss funneled $1.2 million to her lover who was in a neo-Nazi group.
Bro, what?
Have you seen this yet? Have you
No,
yeah,
I missed that
let me pull it up again.
completely.
Yeah, SPLC boss funnels $1.2 million to lover in neo-Nazi group. And of course, it was the Southern Poverty Law Center that for the past 40 years has been making it damn near impossible for like normal, nationalist, patriotic white guys from being able to get together because you're terrified that there's going to be a Fed that shows up.
That there's going to be a Fed.
Right?
So that was actually something, because I just recently did a collab with Focus Trip. And we did get on the topic of feds and that, you know, I was Fed jacked in 2019. And for anyone that's watching that doesn't know what Fed jacked is, that's essentially where a Fed informant or a federal agent or someone of the like joins your group and then purposely gets uncovered and purposely is, you know, now a known federal agent. They try to get wrapped up into some kind of drama or start drama in your group. And now that kills your momentum, kills your group's momentum, et cetera, et cetera. And that did happen to me in 2019. I didn't realize what the hell had happened until years later. And I had that Fed, you know, kind of like overcoat, just like following me for years. And I still hear it to this day. I hear it a little bit less, but I do still hear it. And you know, a lot of men are absolutely and utterly terrified of what if there's a federal agent there. And the biggest thing that I always clap back with is, dog, we're just working out.
Right. I mean, this happened with our church. You know, the federal government a couple of years ago under was it Merrick Garland, Jewish. sent his goons to go infiltrate traditional Catholic churches. Right? They sent an FBI agent to my parents' church. They had one up here. All over the country. They launched an illegal investigation into a priest in Virginia, right? And it's like, I know a lot of people were freaking out about it, and I'm like, listen, what's the worst that can happen, right? You get an FBI agent that shows up at mass. I don't know, teach them about Jesus, man. Like, bring them in, get them to convert. I don't know. But
I mean, like
we've
had guys, and sorry, I'm cutting you off, but we've had guys come out to PT before where it's like, no, this dude is absolutely a federal agent, and we just make fun of him the entire time. And like, we just make fun of him for being fat and make fun of him for being slow. And it's like, I was like, hey man, you better go back to your department and be like, man, they made fun of me.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't be afraid if you're not doing anything illegal. I don't think you should be afraid. Fear is of the devil. What is like one of the most used phrases, right, in the Bible is like, do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid.
Fear is of the enemy, of the devil. They want us to be afraid of one another. They want us to be afraid of hanging out and associating. And, the time for that is over. And I think that especially with all of these revelations coming out now and the indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center, hopefully that will grant some level of reprieve over the next couple of years to allow people on our side of the spectrum, not the autism spectrum, although that is there too, but to organize and to really start building communities. And so I'm hopeful. I'm white-pilled. But man,
I mean, like, what's
crazy.
the option? Like, what's the alternative of having hope? Like, just saying like, oh, it's so over, and never try, and just give up, and oh, woe is me, and like, no, dude, like, I'm going to continue trying to make as many friends as I possibly can.
Amen. Yeah.
And like, anyone that says that like having friends is bad, well, you're just an idiot. Like, you are just a loser. And you know what? No one probably wants to be around you anyway. If you think that you're honestly going to like, be some like lone survivor, like badass all by yourself, like, oh, I'm gonna live out my days as a hermit and out in the mountains by myself. And it's like, you know what, bud, power to you. Good luck. But, that's not saving anything.
Right.
It's pathetic, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah. And plus, it's just like there's strength in numbers. They want us atomized. They want us fighting as individuals. They do not want groups of competent, high agency, normal people coming together. They don't want that. And so, yeah. No, that's incredible. Well, before you go, I do want to mention I saw a post very recently on a Telegram group that you now have the Only Traitors Help Invaders t-shirts back in stock. Is that true?
They are not back in stock yet. They will be back in stock not this Friday, but next Friday. So they're en route right now. They were just printed hot off the press, but they are coming back. They sold out way faster than we anticipated, so we ordered like 3 times as much this time, and we'll see. And I'm trying to keep specifically the Only Traitors Help Invaders shirts. I'm trying to keep those specifically made in America and only made in America, because that just kind of like makes sense. There are some designs that I'm probably going to start running through Printful. But for the high quality stuff, I'm going to make sure that go through American Lictor, and it's made in America.
Based. Yeah, I know we've got another place here in Post Falls actually that does a lot of t-shirt stuff too. So if you ever need that, we've got a guy.
Yeah, I need. Well, I have a source, but like I do want to, and I'm going to say this word. I know I'm like you, but I do want to diversify where I'm getting products from as much as
my ears are bleeding.
Yeah. Also, everyone go buy Idaho Tallow. Sell it.
Very true. Very true. You can get Idaho Tallow at ODGG Supply. What else do you got? What else do you got on sale these days? Any new?
Hold on. Let's see what products I currently have on me right now. Let's see. I have a tourniquet.
There you go.
Attachments right now. I have that on me. Always keep a tiki on you. Let's see. I have my boo-boo kit. I took out the boo-boo kit and I put it in this little pouch. because the one that I sell is not waterproof. I always keep a thermal monocular on me. I'm not even kidding. I actually everyday carry this.
Based.
Let's see. I have a sewing kit on me right now. Always keep a sewing kit on you. A fleece beanie. Always got one of those on me. I don't sell this, but you should always have some sort of flashlight on you.
The question is, do you have any Tapatio?
You know what? I actually should.
You can't have a bug out bag without Tapatio. A couple
Well,
of packets somewhere.
This is just my everyday carry bag. Like this is technically a Camelback.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that. That's crazy. But yeah, no, absolutely. And with we were talking with Mike. Riot season is approaching fast in Ireland. But I think that
I feel like riot season is going to be across the West, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think it's just going to be Ireland. I think we're going to start seeing civil unrest here in the States as well, and God knows what's going to wind up happening. We're going to have to do an episode maybe next week. We'll kind of let some time into this, but there's been some developments with the Iran stuff. Apparently an MOU is about to be signed on Friday. The Israelis are extremely unhappy about it. I know Ben Shapiro was bitching on his podcast today, but
kvetching.
Yes, he was kvetching, and if the Israelis are very, very nonplussed with this agreement that's going to be signed, I would not put it past them to be agitating civil unrest here in the United States. That's for sure. It happens.
I mean,
all the time.
The more civil unrest here, the better it is for them.
That's right. That's right. That's why they were actually promoting the idea of a civil war. I don't know if you saw during the Tenet media scandal. There were some.
I did not see that. There's so much going on constantly that
Yes.
I can't keep up with everything. I'm surprised you can keep up with as much as you do, because I can't keep up with everything.
Oh, I
man.
feel like I've fallen off, man. I feel like I'm behind. But it's like then I'll meet up with my buddies from church, and they know like nothing, and I'm just like, okay, well here, let's get you up to speed on all this.
If nothing else, I think that might be a reason that I've started doing more YouTube commentary. Is just how many people in my own sphere don't see a lot of these stories.
Right.
It's a lot easier to like send family videos when it's me saying it. You're like, here, I'm covering this story. There's facts and information in it. Watch it.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. It's and that's what one of the reasons why I do that. There are a lot of people that watch this show that are here in North Idaho, Spokane area, and it's like we've got to keep up to speed here. We've got to be aware of all the different things that are going on. It's the moment that you kind of relax and take a step back and you're like, oh phew, like we voted the right guy. Now I can tune out for a couple months. It's like absolutely not. You've got to be on this shit all the time. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure that you go visit odggsupply.com. Use promo code Backlash14. You'll get 14% off basically everything in the store with the exception of night vision. So please visit odggsupply.com, and thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, and we'll do this again.
Yeah,
we should do a panel show at some point. We get the LA native patriot and a bunch of us from the Pacific Northwest talking. I think that'd be good.
Speaking of, I need to message him about PT tonight. Where is he? He's not working today. I'm gonna go bully him.
All right.
But yeah, man, appreciate you much, and I'll see you in the next one.
Cheers. All right. God bless. Well, that was awesome. Twofer today. You get a twofer, two different perspectives, one from England or Ireland, Europe, whatever, and one from America. So that's very good. And once again, you got to go visit odggsupply.com. You can find all of our affiliates, by the way, at thebacklash.net/affiliates. And we're going to talk about a couple more of them real quick. One of them being Above Time Coffee Roasters. They make the finest hand-roasted small batch coffee I have ever had. I've got to be honest about it. It will knock your socks off. It is fantastic. They roast this stuff not quite to order, but pretty damn close, right? And one of the things that happens when you go to buy coffee at the big supermarkets is that Folgers will go down and rape some village in South America and pay absolute shit wages to get the coffee beans. Then they'll roast them, and it'll sit in a warehouse for a year or two, growing mold, and then it pops up on the shelf, and you buy it, and you're unbeknownst drinking moldy coffee. That happens a lot, actually. And so that's one of the things that Above Time Coffee roasters, that will never be an issue with them because they are constantly roasting this stuff basically to order. So you're going to order coffee at abovetimecoffee.com and you're going to be getting the freshest roasted coffee that you could possibly get. My dad is texting me now. Love the twofer. Thanks, Dad. Thanks. So please visit abovetimecoffee.com. You can use promo code Backlash10. You will get 10% off your order with them and also with our friends at Antelope Hill Publishing. They're fighting to keep history alive and equip a new generation of dissidents with the information needed to fight the anti-white regime. Their varied catalog includes the newly updated and expanded third edition of Dr. Kevin MacDonald's Culture of Critique, the essential modern text on Jewish identity, Dr. Ricardo Duchesne's magnum opus, Greatness in Ruin, the definitive scholarly examination of European exceptionalism, as well as works by Carrie Bolton, Paul Kersey, and Josh Neal. Antelope Hill recently brought David Irving's iconic Nuremberg the Last Battle back into print and have numerous translations of historical works from eras such as Fascist Italy, National Socialist Germany, and Civil War Spain, all previously unavailable in English. There are also plenty of books on contemporary issues such as transgenderism, the opioid crisis, and Christian nationalism, as well as history books, novels, and children's books. So whatever your interest is, you're bound to find books that you like at Antelope Hill, all professionally published with sleek modern cover art. So help us and help our people by checking out companies that share our values and fight for our cause. Visit antelopehillpublishing.com. And man, it has just been crazy. The fallout from the Antelope Hill booth at the New Christendom Conference is continuing. It's like I don't know, man, but it's crazy. The fallout has been lasting like several days. Like God forbid people read history books. God forbid people get any kind of historical perspective on what was going on in World War II. God forbid, right? We're not allowed to do that. It's just absolutely asinine. Like I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and it's like, what is the worst thing that could possibly happen from like reading a book produced by like Nazi Germany? What's the worst thing that could happen? You're going to walk away from reading that book having some higher level of understanding of what was going on at that time. It might be Nazi propaganda. Okay, sure. But now you know what the Nazi propaganda is, right? So, dude, the anti-intellectualism from these people that are just like, you can't read that book. You can't listen to a Mussolini speech. You can't blah, blah, blah. So you want us to be ignorant. You want us to be completely ignorant. And that's pretty obvious. It's very obvious that is their plan. So don't be ignorant. Get to know your history. Go to antelopehillpublishing.com and use promo code Backlash10. You'll get 10% off your order with them. What else? There were a couple of other stories. I'm not going to belabor it. We've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes already. Whew. Not bad. Not bad. Look at this guy. What are you doing? Alex, what are you doing? My name is spelled Riley with 2 L's. Wait a second. Where is this? Where did it go? Live now with Dave Riley. Bruh. It's okay. You'd be surprised. It's like, I feel like Riley is a pretty easy name to spell, but everybody spells it the wrong way. Riley is a first name. That's a first name. Reilly is the Irish Catholic spelling, and Rei or Riley is the Protestant spelling. So anyway. But there was some other stuff that I did want to talk about because there are some things happening. Number one being this the Iran stuff. Trump has downgraded Israel from our greatest ally to a very small partner. Let's take a look at this clip.
But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner and he's the very small partner, and that's true. So But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say,
we're the big partner and they're the little partner. All right, very small partner. That is, that's good. That's funny. Where else do we have? We also have Donald Trump basically saying the same thing that I've been saying for the past year and a half, which is that Iran should be allowed to have nuclear capabilities. They've got people, they need electricity. There are peaceful ways to use nuclear power, okay? And all of their neighbors have nuclear power. And so here's Donald Trump saying the exact same shit that we've been saying, finally, about the Iran nuclear situation. Take a listen to this.
we've been pretty tough in that. You know, it is a little hard, though, when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it, other adjoining states have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please. We've been pretty tough.
What is
in
this?
that.
Common sense?
It is a little hard.
Common sense in foreign policy? This is news to me because we haven't had much common sense in our foreign policy for a while. Donald Trump also said that Iran has to have some ballistic missiles if other nations in the Gulf do. Wow. I mean, hey, I like the common sense. This is good. This is good. There's also new reports coming out, according to Kalshi, that there is a 61% chance that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be leaving office this year. So, not good. Not good. Things are not good in Israel. They are very upset about the deal that has been negotiated between the U.S. and Iran. I do believe that we also have one more clip of, oh, no, that was the same clip. Okay, we got those done. Yes. What else? There's also clips like here from Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is saying that they will not stop destroying homes in southern Lebanon. Let's see. Continue to act also contrary to the principles of the United States. Yes, we are an independent country and we cannot stop demolishing houses in southern Lebanon. We cannot stop not letting the population in southern Lebanon return. This endangers our soldiers. This endangers our residents. We must not let them return to the borders to what was before the 10th of Baal. And we must continue to control the territory, even against President Trump's will. Ha! Wow. It's almost like the United States and Israel have different end goals, different priorities, huh? It's almost like maybe the interests of the United States are not identical with the interests of Israel. Wow. Huh. You know, it's just one of these things. You know, you get called all of these names, all of these years, and it's like, well, you know, what did we say was going to happen? Where did we say this was going? And so it is kind of nice to see, you know, a little bit of vindication there. Also, it's nice to see Ben Shapiro absolutely losing his shit about this. Let's take a quick look at
noticing
Ben.
That Mohammed Khalibaf, who will apparently on Friday be literally in a photo op with the Vice President of the United States. I cannot express to you how stomach-turning that is.
Womp womp.
I don't care who the Vice President is. I don't care who the President is. Leaders of the United States of America in a photo op with a mass murdering terrorist supporter like Mohammed Khalibaf shaking hands 6 months after he blew away 42,000 innocent people in the streets, and weeks after his administration was firing missiles at literally all of our allies in the region and continues to support every terrorist group in the region and is currently continuing to control the strait. Like right now, it is not fully open for business unless the Iranians have, quote unquote, decided it is. The idea here
LOL.
is that somehow this administration and the deal that has been cut weakens Hezbollah. I'm not seeing it so much. I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's there. Again, we haven't seen the MOU for the 1,000th time. We haven't seen the MOU. That's not because of me. I would like to see the MOU. I think you would like to see the MOU. Hell, I think we'd all like to see the MOU. If Israel is not a party to the actual talks, which they are not, they have not been included in the talks. If Israel is not a signatory to the agreement, which they are not, how in the world could you tie Israel's hands when it comes to self-defense in Lebanon while Hezbollah is firing rockets and drones over the border at Israeli citizens? Shall we say that this is not a popular MOU, from what I understand, in Israel? And again, Israel, they were flying jets alongside American jets during this.
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Nobody cares. Be quiet, Ben. You're losing. For now, we'll see how long this lasts. But I will gloat where I can. I do like to see these people losing their shit because we called this. We called this from the beginning. There was also another clip that I had seen. Yeah. This is it. I found it. Look at that. I found it very quickly. So Ben was upset that this MOU is not going to, be very helpful at, combating Hezbollah or some shit. Well, take a listen to what Trump said, dude. Holy cow. Let's go.
And you'll see that when you see the agreement, but it's appropriate that we release the agreement. And we did send a copy to Israel, by the way. They've been a good partner. Again, I think they could do better with respect to Hezbollah. I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when 2 drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut.
Oh, wow.
They could behave better. And frankly, they could do a better job. I love them as a partner. They were terrific. But they could do a much better job with Hezbollah. On that, I don't think they're doing well. And I feel very bad for Lebanon. Lebanon's been, it was a great culture. They had the professors, the doctors, the lawyers. It was an incredible culture, maybe the highest in the Middle East for years and years, centuries. And for the last 50, 60 years, they have been just trashed. They have been living in hell.
They've been living. I wonder who made their lives living hell for the past, 60 years. Maybe Israel. Maybe Israel has made their lives a living hell. Is that possible? Wow. So anyway, it's good to see that type of stuff. It is very vindicating, which is always good. We've also got a little bit of stuff going on with the papacy, right? Just going to cover this for a little bit, and then we'll head out in a couple minutes here. But the Pope made some comments the other day, right? The traditionalist group, the Society of St. Pius X, is going to be consecrating new bishops on July the 1st in defiance to the will of the Holy See. And Pope Leo finally has addressed this, the first time that he is addressing this publicly. But he said to a reporter in Italian, so I'll just read this: "I am considering making another appeal and saying, don't do this. Let's try to live in communion of the church, but it's their choice. We must realize that what it means for them and the church, certainly the division among Christians, is a painful point. However, they refuse to accept some fundamental elements of the church, starting with several points of the Second Vatican Council. If they make that choice, I'm sorry, but we must move forward." That is what the Pope said. Now, our a good friend of mine anyway, we'll have him on the show eventually, Matt Gaspers, has issued a response to this, saying, "To my knowledge, this is the first time that Pontifex, the Pope, has publicly addressed the upcoming SSPX Episcopal consecration since Father Pagliarani made his announcement 4 months ago. Here is the question that Pope Leo needs to answer. Why is the unconditional acceptance of the texts of Vatican II presented as a conditio sine qua non for full communion with the Holy See? Why no comparable requirement exists with respect to the pastoral, disciplinary, or non-definitive teachings of the preceding 20 ecumenical councils?" Right? Because there is none, right? You're not, nobody's holding anybody's feet to the fire about whether or not you accept the Council of Trent or the Council of Florence, right? Or the, whatever other council. There's nothing like this. It's all about Vatican II. And basically what this means is that this statement, we have to move forward. Translation: something fundamental about the Catholic Church changed in 1965. And if you won't move forward with it, you're no longer Catholic. So the hermeneutic of continuity, as it's called, seems to be officially dead. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. There was some other stuff that had happened as well recently. While they are talking about excommunicating the traditionalists, we have Archbishop Weissenberger, Detroit's archbishop, saying that all churches, mosques, and synagogues are sacred. Quote, "This is a truly wonderful and sacred space," he said, "in a mosque, a place that I believe will bring all of humanity into deeper communion with our one God." That's like heretical. You can't do that. Like, you're not supposed to, Catholics like aren't even supposed to like look at Protestant churches or synagogues or any of that stuff. So it really is incredible. And it's like, oh, okay, we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward. And of course, here is a prince of the church, a bishop, with the fake Archbishop of Canterbury, a woman. This is who the Vatican is dealing with. But when it comes to the traditionalists that are like actually Catholic, no. We're going to excommunicate you. You've got to go. You're problematic. So unbelievable. We'll be keeping an eye on that, as well as all of this other stuff. Let's see, was there anything else that I wanted to talk with you about? And I think we got most of it. Pretty jam-packed episode. Once again, got to thank our friends Michael De La Brock and Alex from PNW Gorilla, ODGG Supply. We got to thank both of them for coming on, making this show great. And thank you for tuning in, everybody that has been tuned in and chatting very much over on the YouTube chat. So thank you to everybody who's here. I see Brandelson, Willie, Silent Vector in here maybe. I don't know. Patton was right over on Rumble. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Big stuff coming this weekend, obviously, with the GOP convention that's going on down in Boise. There's a lot of people running. Could be a big shakeup in the GOP here in Idaho. So I'm going to be heading down to Boise tomorrow to cover that on the ground, and I'll be bringing back a report for you next Monday about the direction of where things are going. And yeah, that should do it. There was one other thing that happened today, which was that Ken Warsh, our new Federal Reserve chairman, just had his very first Federal Reserve Board meeting. That happened today. He was very hawkish, signaling that they were not going to be cutting rates anytime soon. In fact, they might hike rates, the Federal Reserve interest rate. So with that, of course, gold and silver has had a little bit of a tumble today. Let's bring this up on the screen and take a look at the markets real quick before we go. Gold, let's look at this week. Yeah, gold took a nice little dip today after the Ken Warsh thing. It's up 1%, but down 3.5% from earlier today. So it's a great time to buy gold. Great time to buy silver. It's been dipping a little bit. Let's look at it on the 6 month. Yeah, look at that. There's that crazy run up from a little while ago. 1 year. Boom, look at that. Unbelievable. So gold and silver, good time to be accumulating, I think. The situation has not fundamentally changed directionally with inflation, with what's been going on in the Strait of Hormuz. So it's a great time to buy gold and silver. And you can do that with our friends at atlasbullion.com/backlash. Of course, you can get that link. It's a mouthful. It's a handful to type. But you can get that link in the show notes below. If you've got kids, if you think you're going to have grandkids, and if you think you want to pass on some of your wealth to them, saving in dollars is not advisable. Of course, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. I'm not an investment advisor or anything like that, but I do stack and save in gold and silver, and I think you should too. You can do it the easy way with our friends at Atlas Bullion by signing up for a gold or silver subscription. Silver subscriptions, of course, are as low as $55 a month. Gold as low as $200 a month. So you don't need to be, flush with cash to start stacking precious metals. You can get signed up today. And of course, you will be saving yourself, saving your future generations, and you'll be helping this podcast out. You'll be helping us to continue making content that you know and love. So thank you very much for tuning in. Please tell your friends about the podcast, like and share this video. Please smash the like button. What are you doing? We got to smash the like button on this. And let's see, we should be able to get up. I want to get up we can get to 5,000 followers on Rumble, can't we? We're up a little bit on YouTube. Very good. 3.17 thousand followers over on YouTube. So thank you all once again for tuning in. It was great spending some time with you tonight. God bless. Hope you have a great weekend. That's going to do it for me. God bless. Bye-bye.